In this episode, we look at questions about the Sabbath. Point number 1. Since Paul declares, "Let no man judge you regarding the Bible Sabbath," isn't Sabbath keeping unnecessary? Colossians 2 verse 16 and 17. "Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of an holy day or of a new moon or of Sabbath days, which are the shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ." Colossians 2 verses 16 and 17 is one of the most misunderstood passages in the Bible. One principle of Bible interpretation is that you do not allow what may be somewhat unclear to keep you from doing what you understand. The Bible is plain concerning the Sabbath. It was given at creation. In Genesis 2 verses 1 to 3 we see that. And Jesus observed it, Luke 4 verse 16. Paul observed it, Acts 13 verses 42 to 44. And it will be observed in heaven, Isaiah 66 verses 22 and 23. The Bible mentions, though, two kinds of Sabbaths: the seventh-day Sabbath and the yearly Sabbaths. The seventh-day Sabbath, instituted at creation and part of the Ten Commandment law, is a weekly reminder of the loving, all-powerful Creator. The yearly Sabbaths relate specifically to the history of Israel. Colossians 2 verses 16 to 17 specifically state, "Let no one judge you regarding Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come." The seventh-day Sabbath is a memorial of creation. It is not a shadow of something to come. Point number 2. The following passage in Hebrews connects the law of shadows with animal sacrifices. Hebrews 10 verse 1. "For the law, having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of the things, can never with those sacrifices which they offered year by year continually make the comers thereunto perfection." Next point, point number 3. Ezekiel uses the exact expression in the exact same order as in Colossians 2 verses 16 to 17, connecting it all with the ceremonial system of feasts, new moons, and Sabbaths to make reconciliation for the house of Israel. Ezekiel 45 verse 17 says, "And it shall be the prince's part to give burnt offerings and meat offerings and drink offerings in the feasts and in the new moon and in the Sabbaths, in all solemnity of the house of Israel. He shall prepare the sin offering and the meat offering and the burnt offering and the peace offerings to make reconciliation for the house of Israel." Point number 4. Leviticus 23, beginning with verse 3, discusses the seventh-day Sabbath. Leviticus 23 verse 3 says, 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. He shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all thy dwellings. Point number 5. Then we have the ceremonial Sabbaths. Let's look at Luke 23 verse 4. "These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye proclaim in their seasons." Leviticus 23 verse 5 now. "In the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover." Leviticus 23 verse 6. "On the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto the Lord. 7 days he must eat unleavened bread." Leviticus 23 verse 10. "Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then shall ye bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest." Point number 6. Feast of First Fruits. Leviticus 23 verse 17. "He shall bring out of your habitation 2 wave loaves of 2 tenth deals. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baken with leaven. They are the first fruits unto the Lord. Point number 7. The Feast of Trumpets. Leviticus 23 verse 24. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, in the first day of the month, they shall have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing trumpets and holy convocation. Point number 8. Day of Atonement. Leviticus 23 verses 27 to 32. Also, on the 10th day of the 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be an holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls, and an offering made by fire unto the Lord. And ye shall do no work in that day, for it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before the Lord your God. For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in the same day, he shall be cut off from among the people. And whatsoever soul it be that doth any work in that day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. And he shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. It shall be a Sabbath of rest, and he shall afflict your souls. In the 9th day of the month, at even, from even unto even, shall he celebrate your Sabbath. Point number 9. The Feast of Tabernacles. Leviticus 23 verses 34 to 36. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord. On the first day shall he make an holy convocation, and he shall do no servile work therein. 7 days he shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. On the 8th day shall be an holy convocation unto you, and he shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a solemn assembly, and he shall do no servile work therein. Leviticus 23 verses 37. These are the feasts of the Lord, which he shall proclaim to be holy convocations, and to offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord, a burnt offering and a meat offering, a sacrifice and a drink offering, everything upon his day. Colossians 2 verses 16 and 17 says, Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink, or in respect of an holy day, or of new moons, or of Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ. Leviticus 23 verse 28, Beside the Sabbaths of the Lord, and besides your gift, and beside all your vows, and beside all your freewill offerings which ye give to the Lord. Note, both the Feast of Trumpets, as in verse 24, the Day of Atonement, as in verse 23, are specifically called Sabbaths. These annual Sabbaths were intimately connected to the events foreshadowing Christ's death and his second coming. God designed that these feasts, or holy days, to be shadows or pointers to the coming Messiah. Since Christ has come, the shadowy Sabbaths of the ceremonial law have found their fulfillment in him. The 7th-day Sabbath continues to lead us back to the Creator God who made us. Point number 10. God's people will keep the Sabbath as a distinguishing sign of their relationship. Revelation 14 verse 12 says, Here is the patience of the saints, and here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. Ezekiel 20 verse 12, Moreover, I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them, that they may know that I am the Lord that sanctify them. Point number 11. What about this text from Romans? Romans 14 verse 5. One man esteemeth one day above another, another man esteemeth every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. Please note, sometimes it is helpful to notice what a text does not say as well as what it does say. Verse 5 and 6 say nothing about either worship or the Sabbath. They simply talk about regarding a day. To say that the day being discussed is the Sabbath is an unwarranted assumption. Point number 12. The first verse of Romans 14 sets the tone for the entire passage. Now look at Romans 14 verse 1. Him that is weak in faith receive ye, but not in doubtful disposition. Point number 13. The seventh-day Sabbath set apart by God at creation is not a doubtful teaching. Genesis 2 verses 1 to 3. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had made, and rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in he had rested from all his work which God created and made. Exodus 20 verses 8 to 11 says, Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Point number 14. The key to the passage in Romans is found in verse 6. Romans 14 verse 6 says, He that regardeth the day regardeth it unto the Lord, and he that regardeth the day not to the Lord, he doth not regard it. He that eateth, eateth to the Lord, for he giveth God thanks. And he that eateth not, to the Lord he eateth not, and giveth God thanks. Please note, the issue revolved around fast days, not Sabbath days. Some Jewish Christians believed there was particular merit in fasting on certain days. They were judging others by their own standards. The Pharisees fasted at least twice a week and boasted about it. And we can find that in Luke chapter 18 verse 12. Paul is making the point that to fast or not to fast on certain days is a matter of individual conscience. This is not something that God commands. Point number 15. Didn't the disciples meet on the first day of the week? Acts 20 verse 7 says, And upon the first day of the week, when the disciples came together to break bread, Paul preached unto them, ready to depart on the morrow, and continued his speech until midnight. Please note, the reason this meeting is mentioned in the narrative is because Paul was leaving the next day and worked a mighty miracle in raising Eutychus from the dead. It is clear that the meeting is at night. It is the dark part of the first day of the week. Point number 16. In Bible times, the dark part of the day preceded the light part. Genesis 1 verse 5 says, And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Point to note here, the Sabbath was observed from Friday evening at sunset to Saturday night at sunset. First the evening and then the morning. If this meeting is on the dark part of the first day of the week, it is in fact a Saturday night meeting. Paul has met all the believers all Sabbath, and he will depart the next day, Sunday. So the meeting continued late Saturday night. The Jews would have all considered what we call Saturday night as the first day of the week because the day started at sunset. The next day, Paul did travel by foot to Assos and then sailed to Mytilene. The New English Bible reading of Acts 20 verse 7 also confirms this as a Saturday night meeting, with Paul traveling on Sunday. If Paul considered Sunday sacred in honor of the resurrection, why would he spend the entire day traveling and not worshiping? Point number 17. Evidence number 1. The Bible clearly revealed that Christ was crucified on Preparation Day. Luke 23 verse 54. And the day was the preparation, and the Sabbath drew on. Point number 18. His closest followers rested on the Sabbath day. Luke 23 verses 55 to 56. And the women also which came with him from Galilee followed after, and beheld the sepulchre, and how his body was laid. And they returned and prepared spices and ointments, and rested the Sabbath day according to the commandment. Point 19. Jesus rose from the dead on the first day of the week. Luke 24 verses 1 to 3. Now upon the first day of the week, very early in the morning, they came unto the sepulchre, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and certain others with them. And they found the stone rolled away from the sepulchre. And they entered in, and found not the body of the Lord Jesus. Mark 16 verse 9. Now when Jesus was risen early the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had cast 7 devils. Now please note, most Christians recognize that Jesus died on Friday, the preparation day, rested in the grave the next day, and rose on the first day, Sunday. The Sabbath day is the day between Friday and Sunday, which is Saturday. Point number 20, the second piece of evidence, language. In over 140 languages in the world, the word for the seventh day, which we call Saturday, is the word Sabbath. The fact that so many societies call the seventh day of the week Sabbath shows that the weekly cycle has not been disrupted through the centuries. Here are examples. In Hebrew, Shabbat; Greek, Sabbaton; Latin, Sabbatum. Evidence number 3. Point 21. Evidence number 3. Astronomy. The human race has never lost the septenary 7-day sequence of weekdays, and that the Sabbath of the latter times comes down to us from Adam through the ages without a single lapse. So says Dr. Trottin, a professor of astronomy at Yale University. 7 has been the ancient and most honored number among the nations of earth. They have measured their time by weeks from the beginning. The origin of this was called the Sabbath of God, as Moses had given reason for it in his writings. There has been no change in our calendars in the past centuries that has affected in any way the cycle of the weeks. It can be said with assurance that not a day has been lost since creation, and that all the calendar changes notwithstanding, there has been no break in the weekly cycle. So says Dr. Jeffries, a fellow of the Royal Astronomical Society and a research director of the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, England. Point 22. Evidence number 4. History. The Jewish people have kept an accurate record. So in this episode, we looked at some of the questions regarding the Sabbath. So we looked at passages from Paul talking about letting no one judge you with regarding to the Sabbath days and so on, and what that meant. We looked at the ceremonial laws, the laws of first fruits, trumpets, the Day of Atonement, and tabernacles, and all of those. We went back to Romans to look at the days that were being spoken of, how the disciples worshipped. We looked at what Jesus did. We looked at various pieces of evidence. Evidence 1, the Bible is clear about which day of the week he was crucified on, right? Evidence number 2, we look at language to say that the word Sabbath simply means the seventh day of the week in over 140 languages in the world right now. We look at astronomy, and we look at history. In our next episode, we will look at first day texts.